Motion and the Reification of Energy, Part 2. This series of presentations consists of 3 parts. Part 1, the present model of energy. Part 2, motion and the reification of energy. And Part 3, system equilibrium disequilibrium. Part 2, motion and the reification of energy. The conclusion of Part 1, the present model of energy, was: energy cannot be proven to exist by the application of the scientific method. Energy is not the logical antecedent to work or motion. Energy is a story used by people in an attempt to explain and quantify the motion or effects that they observe. This means that the general understanding of the conservation of energy is not real. 1. That energy cannot be created or destroyed in an isolated system. The total quantity of the energy in the universe stays the same. What energy? 2. That energy is transferred or transformed. What energy? This presentation will focus on motion and the reification of energy. Motion and the reification of energy. Definition of reify: make something abstract more concrete or real. The man throws the ball. The ball is in motion. That is what is observed. The man has not transferred energy to the ball. The man does not transfer anything to the ball. The ball does not have energy because it is in motion. It is just in motion. The ball is in motion. That is all that can be stated and proved. Saying the ball has energy because it is in motion is nothing more than a story and is a fallacy of ambiguity. When an abstraction, abstract belief, or hypothetical construct is treated as if it were a concrete real event or physical entity. And as shown in Part 1, energy is not the logical antecedent for motion. The motion of a ball, be it velocity, acceleration, or deacceleration, can be observed and measured and quantified. It can be calculated that the ball is accelerating at a rate of 2.4 centimeters per second squared, or the ball is decelerating at a rate of 3.5 centimeters per second squared. So the motion of the ball can be calculated without the need for the concept of energy. A person asks the question, why does the ball accelerate? Answer: because the man set it in motion. A person asks the question, why does the ball deaccelerate? Answer: because the system surroundings opposes its motion. This is obvious. The fact that the man had to set the ball in motion to begin indicates that the system or surroundings did not favor the ball to be in motion to begin with. The man sets the ball in motion. The man is the cause, and the ball in motion is the effect that we witness. No man, then no effect, or ball in motion. The man is the cause. But a person says, for the man to set the ball in motion, the man must have or possess energy and transfer energy. Let's test that. Take the energy, the presumed cause, out of the man and the ball will not move. How can energy be taken out of the man? What will be taken out of the man? A concept. How about we don't feed the man? The man eventually dies and the ball will not move. So food is a cause, not energy then. But the food contains energy. Nice story. Prove it. It will be continually stated by an energist that the cause of the effect is energy, but when asked to prove it, they will not be able to. The conversation will spiral by stages into muscles, cells, particles, and bonds, and every time the energist will say that the cause of the effect is energy, but will not be able to prove it. I could just say unicorns are the cause of the effect, and it is equally meaningless and unprovable. The ball is in motion, accelerating at a rate of 0.5 meters per second squared. The energist asks, how much energy did the thrower transfer to the ball to cause it to accelerate at that rate? Answer: what energy? Energy is a term and concept the energist has just made up from observing the ball in motion. The energist asks, how much kinetic energy does the ball possess, gain as it accelerates? Answer: what energy? Energy is just a term and concept that has never been proven to be the cause of motion and is not the logical antecedent for motion. So the energist has been caught attempting to make up a cause called energy. But when they are asked to prove it by application of the scientific method or as a logical antecedent, they cannot. The man is the cause of the effect we observe, the ball in motion. The man does not transfer energy to the ball. The ball does not possess energy or kinetic energy. Energy does not transfer from the man's chemical energy store to the ball's kinetic energy store. Observable and measurable motion has been used to reify energy. The man throws the blue ball. The blue ball is in motion. The blue ball collides and interacts with the floor, bounces, rolls, and gradually comes to a stop. The interesting question is, why does the motion of the blue ball A cease? The motion ceases because the medium, the surroundings, opposes the ball's motion. We will use an example of a ball sliding along a floor. In the diagram below, the blue ball is in motion, moving, sliding from left to right. The ball is moving through air particles as represented by the black dots. Due to its direction of motion, the ball is colliding, interacting with more air particles per second to the right of it than air particles to the left of it. The air particles moving towards and colliding or interacting with the surface of the ball labeled X are opposing the motion of the ball. The motion of the ball is being retarded. All the time, I wanted to use the term energy in the above statements. It is so ingrained in my cognition, like the word gravity was. It could be considered an unconscious programmed response, a Pavlovian dog response, salivating to the sound of a bell. The ball does not lose its energy, nor is all the kinetic energy that it does not really possess transfer into thermal energy or kinetic energy of the air particles. The ball does not possess kinetic energy, which is just a concept, and nothing passes from the ball to air particles. The non-smooth surface also retards the motion of the blue ball from left to right. The surface of the ball itself may also not be smooth and retard its motion. The acceleration motion of the ball is caused by the man. The deacceleration motion of the ball is caused by the surroundings. If the ball is observed to deaccelerate, its motion is being retarded by its surroundings, which indicates that the system, ball and surroundings, is in disequilibrium. If the ball is observed to accelerate, this indicates that the system, ball and surroundings, is in disequilibrium. If the ball is stationary, the system, ball and surroundings, is in equilibrium. If the ball is moving at constant velocity, the system, ball and surroundings, is being kept in disequilibrium by the cause. It has been shown that A. Energy cannot be proven to exist by the application of the scientific method. B. Energy is not the logical antecedent for motion. C. Observable and measurable motion has been used to reify energy. So far in this presentation, the term force has not been used. This interesting term will now be examined. When discussing a force, one must be aware of the relationship between a force and energy. Force in mechanics, any action that tends to maintain or alter the motion of a body or to distort it. In classical terms, you do work or transfer energy to an object when you exert a force on the object, causing it to move some distance or motion. Work or energy transferred, J, equals force N times the distance M. Work in physics, measure of energy transfer that occurs when an object is moved over a distance by an external force, at least part of which is applied in the direction of the displacement. The units in which work is expressed are the same as those for energy. For example, in SI, International System of Units, and the meter-kilogram-second system, Joule-Newton-meter. What does this simply mean? It means that in the present model, forces produce a transfer of energy, but there is no energy transfer. That is just an unproven, just so story. So, no energy transfer, so no force? What is a force? A definition is, force, in mechanics, any action that tends to maintain or alter the motion of a body or to distort it. Any object in motion can collide or interact with other stationary objects or other objects also in motion. The action in this case is the object in motion colliding with a stationary object. In classical physics, forces produce a transfer of energy. Since energy is merely a concept, unproven, and a concept cannot transfer from one object to another, the term force should not be used as it can potentially lead to misunderstanding and the formation of a false premise. Only exactly what happens should be stated with no unnecessary, extraneous terms or words used. Stating that an accelerating object strikes a stationary object with a force is inaccurate. The term force is extraneous and inaccurate and should not be used. What should be stated is, an object in motion collides with a stationary object, causing the stationary object to accelerate. Motion. That is exactly what happens. A person could say, a force is a push or a pull. This is a meaningless statement that has no basis in reality. It is the same as saying that a unicorn is a horse with a horn on its head. The motion of one object can change the motion of another object. That is all that can be said. When an accelerating ball collides or interacts with a stationary ball, there is no force. It is just an accelerating ball colliding or interacting with a stationary ball. But when the accelerating ball collides or interacts with the stationary ball, there is a force at that point of collision. No, there is a collision or interaction. That is what is observed. The term force has been made up. Acceleration can be observed and measured. A collision or interaction can be observed. Can a force be observed and measured? No. A force is created in the mathematics force equals mass times acceleration. A person could say many different types of pushes can occur. For example, 1. A strong magnetic material can be used to push another strongly magnetic material. 2. An electrically charged object can push another object. An accelerating object can push another object. All that is being observed is motion resulting in collision or interaction and a change in motion. 1. I move, accelerate, one magnet towards another magnet, interaction and a change in motion. 2. I move, accelerate or decelerate the plexiglass rod across the duster, then move the plexiglass rod towards the hanging tinsel, interaction and a change in motion of the tinsel. 3. A thrown accelerating ball collides with a stationary ball, interaction and a change in motion. No force, only motion. Using the word collide, interact is the accurate way to describe what is observed. If the word force is used in a statement such as exert a force on the object, then this leads people to the mistaken belief that a force actually exists. This will be investigated using the two pure copper blocks as shown below. Both blocks are made of pure copper and have a volume of 30 centimeters cubed. Copper block X is accelerating towards copper block Y. Copper block X collides with copper block Y. A person asks, what force does copper block X exert on copper block Y? A person asks, what force does copper block X exert on copper block Y? This has resulted in the term force being reified and becoming a measurable entity. This is similar to a person saying, how much phlogiston is the burning candle releasing? This resulted in measurements of calculations of phlogiston, an entity that does not actually exist. Force, energy, and phlogiston cannot be observed or measured directly. Values for force, energy, and phlogiston are all conjured within mathematical equations. Force and energy are concepts that exist only in the mathematics. What do we mean by force and energy are concepts that exist only in the mathematics? Here is an example of a concept being reified by combining factors that are real and can be observed and measured. Englishness equals how loud you can sing the national anthem times how many units of alcohol you can drink before passing out. A person's Englishness is determined by A. The person achieves a measured maximum of 100 decibels when singing the national anthem. B. The person manages to drink 24 units of alcohol, 8 pints of beer before passing out. The person has an Englishness of 100 times 24 equals 2400 EN. The person is very English, which is surprising since they are Japanese, can trace their Japanese ancestry back for the last 500 years, have never been to England, and do not have a British passport. I hope this exaggerated example clearly illustrates the process of reification at work. The answer, solutions to the three formulas below, force, energy, and Englishness, have a number of similarities. 1. They are not observable. 1. They are not observable. 2. They are not directly measurable. 3. They cannot be an independent variable in an experiment. 4. They cannot be a dependent variable in an experiment. 5. They are not the if to a then in a logical antecedent relationship. The similarities are interesting. But the term force is so useful, it shouldn't be abandoned, should it? Obviously, relative density disequilibrium is one of the factors in the above example and must be factored in and have appropriate units. Example, moment equals object RD, air at sea level, times distance from pivot. Only accurate and valid factors that are proven by application of the scientific method or a logical antecedent must be used in order to prevent reification and the creation of just so stories. Moment or turning force. The person's hand or arm accelerates. Because the person's hand is holding the spanner accelerates with the hand or arm. The spanner is holding the nut, so as the spanner accelerates, the nut also accelerates. Due to the situation, the acceleration of the spanner and nut will be in a circular motion. We can observe and measure the circular acceleration or motion. No force is observed or measured. What about a rusty nut that won't accelerate? Won't force have to be used to get the nut to start accelerating? The bolt is the pivot point. Rust is holding the nut to the bolt. The rusty nut and rusty bolt are now one entity and there is no pivot point for the nut to turn around. The rusty nut bolt will now have to be accelerated as one if motion is to be observed. The man's hands, spanner, and rusty nut bolt are one entity in terms of motion. They either all accelerate simultaneously or they do not accelerate. The man is choosing to accelerate his hands and arms. The hands, spanner, rusty nut bolt entity cannot freely accelerate because there is no pivot point. The rate of acceleration of the hands, spanner, rusty nut bolt entity results in the rust breaking away from the nut or bolt or both. The nut, spanner, hands entity can now accelerate in circular motion around the pivot. No force, only motion. If the rate of acceleration of the hands, spanner, rusty nut bolt entity is not sufficient to break the rust away from the nut or bolt or both, the motion or acceleration will be retarded and no pivot will be available for circular motion to occur around. No acceleration, then no breaking of the rust holding the nut and bolt together. A certain rate of acceleration will result in the breaking of the rust holding the nut and bolt together, or accelerate the top section of the bolt and cause it to break away from the bottom section of the bolt. No force, only motion. Pressure. In the present model of physics, atmospheric or air pressure is measured by the mercury barometer. The height of a column of mercury is observed and measured. What causes the column to be at a certain height? The air particles above the mercury are moving in all directions. Those air particles directly above the mercury and moving in a downward direction collide with the mercury. A change in the motion of the air particles will cause a change in the height of the mercury, effect. So, pressure is a measure of motion and a change in motion, acceleration or deceleration. The surface area of the mercury barometer stays the same. The only factor that changes is the motion of the air particles. Pressure is a measure of motion, not force. Conclusion. We observe motion with our sense of sight. We measure and quantify motion. We do not observe energy or force with our senses. In an attempt to understand the motion that is observed, a story has been created that contains fictitious elements, namely force and energy, that have unfortunately been reified. These non-observable and not provable imaginary elements of force and energy have been generated in mathematical formulas, quantified, and then further applied. What next? Back to basics. Part 3. System equilibrium and disequilibrium. If you can prove the existence of energy or a force, not motion, then please present your evidence on the Nathan Oakley Flat Earth Debate Show. This show is Monday through Friday from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. UK time. You will be warmly welcomed. The link to join the show is https://discord.gg/r4T Note: proof does not mean descriptions and words, it means a practical demonstration that is both observable and repeatable and based on logic or the scientific method. My sincere thanks to Karen B. for her technical support in the production, and to Nathan Oakley 1980, Stephen P., and Adam Meakin for traveling with me on this journey and our continued discussions.